This is Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm Diane Hansen, management consultant, and with me co-host Christine Salvo, therapist, certified mediator, and certified hypnotherapist.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. So last episode, we were talking about how do you know when it's time to expand? And we actually used some of my musings with my business as a kind of a open dialogue case study for that. So being the action-oriented consultant I am, I put together a opportunity matrix, which included a desire analysis and a client analysis. So what is a desire analysis, you may say? Well, there are a couple of questions, and I actually picked this up from a trainer that I took a session with the week prior. And there are several questions that you can ask yourself to hone in on your desire. So question number one is, what do I want and desire with no limitation? And for me, it was to build a life working from anywhere where I can comfortably retire at age 55, 60, and grow as a person while doing it. The next question is, what solutions can I create that give me what I want? So what can I do specifically that connect with that want, desire with no limitation to make that happen? So for me, it was to work remote on meaningful contracts that give me the most get for the least sweat. Question three, who do I need to ask, team up with? So this is who you need to resource. Who's your tribe on this? So I realized I need to team up with others who are on the same path as I am and don't see it as wrong. So I don't need the people who are pulling back on me working remote and saying, gosh, you know what? You would be so much happier if you just went to an office every day.
Right.
Right. So I need people in my corner who also are pro self-employment, because self-employment has a lot of dips and valleys and highs and lows. And those who are not so pro self-employment can turn into the naysayers. So question four is, how does this meet my needs? So my answer was, this meets my needs for stability, flexibility, contribution, and growth, which I identified as my core values of my abundance. I can be flexible, but I need to be stable. I want to be contributing, but I want to grow while I'm contributing. I want to fill my cup as I'm giving. Question number 5 is, when I replace expectations with compassion, what outcome works best? So replacing expectations with compassion is replacing what other people might expect from me with compassion for why I felt like it's necessary to show up that way. And for me, and we've covered this on past shows, our listeners know me well, I'm a former workaholic. So when I replace expectations with compassion, the outcome that works best for me is to not make myself a workaholic while achieving this goal, make time for what matters, and grow my team. So I'm not doing it all. So often the expectations, we can actively mitigate that by setting ourselves up for success to not go there, just to not go there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to pause right there, because those first 5 have so much content. Wow, we can really just spend a little bit of time here, right?
There's two more, and then we can discuss the desire analysis.
All right, let's go.
Okay, question number 6, am I performing on my stage? So are you performing on your stage, or the stage someone else wants for you? Are you exhausting yourself making someone else money and wealth when you're wanting to do yours? So my answer is, I have autonomy. I can show my personal genius, and I'm not tied to doing it someone else's way. And finally, the last question to the desire analysis is, what version of me is this? Who am I? So there are different versions of you that show up throughout your life. And you may be aligning what you're doing with a different version of you. Workaholic me had a totally different vision for her career. So I wrote, I'm an achiever and a hard worker, but achievement and work is not my whole life. My life is fun, and I have all the resources to do what I want to do, no matter how I change over time. And that is a desire analysis.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So what do I want and desire without limitation? This question alone really could take quite a few hours of contemplation unless you're very clear. So there's people that fantasize about their future, the winning the lottery, right? Mm-hmm. And there's people that don't allow that. I've met tons of people that when I ask a similar question, it's like, I don't let myself go there because I feel like it could be too disappointing. So how do you offset that? How do you offset this idea of I shouldn't dream because it might not come true? Or when people have just kind of maybe settled into maybe the humdrum of life or kind of given up on their dream and they don't really like to think without limitations. How do you get that past that with people?
I think that first of all, when you dream without limitation, you dream without other people's shoulds attached to you. Mm-hmm. So if it has been your dream to roam the world and to have no strings attached and very little stuff, that might fly in the face of a family that says, no, you have to get married, you have to have kids, you have to have a house with a white picket fence and a car and 2 cars in the driveway and a dog named Spot. Totally different. So want and desire is your want and desire, and there's nothing wrong with it. And your want and desire is not a goal. Mm-hmm. It is a vision. When you start treating your visions like goals, that's where they become heavy and they become stressful. They become very heavy. They become very stressful because you're constantly looking at the summit of that mountain and you're not paying attention to the fact that today, one day at a time, you need to make sure you have enough water in your backpack and that you at least walk the first mile.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if what you do today is in alignment with that desire with no limitation. So for example, my desire with no limitation is to build a life working from anywhere where I can comfortably retire at age 55 and grow as a person doing it. That is wide open. But what that does is that shuts down spending every single penny I make.
Right.
So today in the here and now, that goal might be, okay, how am I going to build myself up for investments? I had a financial advisor contact me about stocks and investments and all of that. And I said, let me stop you right there. Here's my plan. My plan is to buy condos in areas in which I visit frequently or have no state income tax. Mm-hmm. I'm going to buy condos there. I'm going to rent them out. I'm going to keep them as passive income properties. And when it's time to retire, I'm going to sell them all. Mm-hmm. And then we can have a conversation. But that action that day was driven by being very clear on what I want and desire with no limitation. Because that comfortably retired age 55 does not mean throwing every penny into something that's not going to generate for me in the short run.
Right. So basically what you're saying is when you're saying yes to this, you're saying no to something else.
Exactly.
And what this really kind of helps you do is sift out what I'm saying yes to, mm-hmm. but also making that conscious awareness, that choice that it's going to require a lot of no's, that all of this really does still require a lot of discipline. So it's not necessarily fantasy thinking. It's more just what is in alignment with me? When I'm saying yes, what am I saying yes to? When I'm saying no, what am I saying no to? Because those are all actually very unconscious behaviors that a lot of people have very little awareness over.
Right. And I'm not going to commit to a partner who has a fixed mindset. because growth is a key part of my life with no limitations. So I'm also going to make choices around the team up with piece, which was question number 3, but still it links in with the want and desire. Because if I want and desire growth, I'm not going to pair up with somebody who's a homebody who has had the same routine for the last 10 years.
Right. Yeah. So really looking at this, so we can use this desire analysis in personal growth and relationships, in career plan and path and things like that.
Yeah, with absolutely anything. You can even use it as a leader within your business, in terms of goals for 2021. If by the end of 2021, what do I want and desire for my department with no limitation? What solutions can I, Eileen, what is my strategic plan to create what I desire with no limitation? Who do I need to team up with? Do I need to add employees? Do I need to subtract employees? Do I need new skill sets to bring this in? So yeah, this can be taken to any level, any type of level. It can be taken to friendships, relationships, departmental goals and desires, company goals and desires, pretty much spiritual needs. Everything this desire analysis can be performed for. I happen to perform it for my business. So when you keep these things in alignment, so all of these things connect. What solutions you can create connects directly to what you want and desire with no limitation. Who you team up with connects with that. Being clear on how your needs align with that. So say, for example, my needs had nothing to do with stability and everything to do with perfect and complete freedom, with no difference from how I was making money day to day, just as long as I was happy. That doesn't align necessarily with comfortably retire at age 55.
Right.
So it's got your needs, your values have to align with those things. When you replace other people's expectations with compassion for yourself, or your own expectations with compassion for yourself. I've had to love up a lot on my inner workaholic. My inner workaholic has had me make some atrocious choices in the past, and because of it, I have given up time with friends. I've given up relationship time. I have identified myself strictly by what I do, and I lost myself completely and totally. So when I love up on that, I realize that it is possible to do that, because there's a part of me that says, well, I'm just going to work like crazy 24 hours a day for the next 20 years. And there we go.
Right. And, you know, one of my favorite ones actually on this whole list is number 6. Am I performing on my stage?
Yeah.
I love this question. I love it. I love it. I love it because it's so introspective, and it's really about, even if you're working for somebody else, let's say you work for the state or something else, maybe part of your career path is like a dental hygienist or something where you're working in collaboration and you're not going to do it on your own. You can still have your own stage and not be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or a business owner.
Yep.
It's
absolutely.
really about, even if I'm working for someone else, is it satisfying? Do I like it? Do I feel like I'm making a difference and contributing? Because that's one of our deepest goals, right? Is making a contribution to the world that we live in. We want to feel like what we're doing has purpose and meaning. So am I performing on my stage? This can be relationships as well. This can transfer over in so many different ways. Am I really showing up for my life, or am I just kind of going through the motions?
Right. Exactly. If this was a play, would I want to be in it?
Yeah, right.
If this was a play, would I even want to audition for this?
Right. So
does this excite me?
And the version of me, I want to elaborate on that a little bit. So one thing I usually like to say in therapy is every 10 years we're a different person, and that's just natural evolution. One of my favorite quotes is Muhammad Ali saying, if you're the same at 25, or if you're the same as you are at 50 as you were at 25, you missed the point. Because we are naturally supposed to grow and evolve. So when we're really talking about what version of me is this and who am I? Often in times in therapy, we talk about our inner child and our child self and how that likes to kind of pop its head up and live our lives for us, especially when we're stressed. What we know about children is they don't have the tools, the coping skills, or the capacity to handle adult problems. That's why we don't let our 4-year-olds make life decisions for us. But internally, we often do, right? So it's often our inner child that picks our partner. It's often our inner child that has the issues. So really asking yourself, not only what version of me is this, but how old am I? How old do I feel as I'm going through this, as I'm making this decision, as I'm looking at my life through this lens? When we're in our adult self, we have so much more perspective, tools, and we have a reality base there. When we're not our adult self, it tends to be a lot more emotional. And that's when you can typically find yourself holding up out of fear. Children are afraid because the world is a big, scary place. Adults have more rational fear. We get that there's risk in everything, but we're not necessarily afraid of our own shadow. So really trying to tell the difference between, am I playing it safe because I'm being young and I'm afraid of the world, or is that a logical, rational decision? And really kind of measuring these two. There's a lot to bat around when we're looking at this kind of stuff.
Yep, exactly. And the version of you could be an adult you, but it could be an unhealed adult you. My workaholic me was an unhealed adult me. It was an avoidant adult me. And when I look at, and I did this analysis across my entire spectrum. So how I applied this desire analysis is that I put it into a client analysis. So I took all of my clients and I segmented them out by client type. So I do installed consulting, which I appear as part of their consulting firm. I do consulting out of my firm. I do installed coaching as I appear part of their coaching, and I do individual coaching as well. So I do both installed and individual coaching and consulting. I wrote down their current monthly commitment. Because again, drawing back to the desire analysis, stability is important to me. I chose to focus on recurring revenue. So recurring revenue is the lifeblood of business. Recurring revenue and reducing the rate in which you lose customers, because it costs a lot more to obtain a new customer than it does to retain an existing one. So monthly commitment was very important to me, as well as about how many hours I was spending each month to get that commitment and any agreements that I had in place. So I put all that down, and I also listed the longevity, because I do tend to make decisions based on, well, we've been together so long. So I listed all that out, along with also, is there the potential for increased revenue? And is this a committed agreement on their part? So I added that to the desire analysis. So I looked at kind of the core bits of the business operations, and then the desire analysis, I decided to score these. So increased revenue potential, committed agreement, and all of the questions of the desire analysis were each worth a point. And when I got, clarity that this delivered against the desire analysis in an aligned way, it got a point. So I scored each one of my clients by this analysis, and it allowed me to make some choices. It allowed me to make some choices to speak up. It allowed me to make some choices to even recommend that one client reconsider how they are running their business, because their employee turnover was very high. It informed some decisions to, around the boundaries with clients. So the scoring really kind of brought it into more of a, it was a quantified thing at that point. It was no longer, well, I think I like, we're doing this client. I think this client's sort of my stage. I think this is a good use of my time to, yes, this is, no, it isn't, or it's kind of on the fence and it needs some work. And from there, I made a decision for each client. So setting strong boundaries, keeping contracts, things to watch for within the contract, strategies to grow the contracts. And then I looked at scaling. So, which was really the outcome that we started with last week, is how do I scale? Then I looked at, what am I doing with this client that is not bringing me energy, and it's not subject matter expert dependent, so that I can delegate this. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at each one of those and then put together a job description in alignment with that. And I'm feeling better this week. I can tell you that.
Good. Yeah. And that's so important too for our listeners is, we talked a lot last week about efficiency, and this is such an efficient process. This was, I'm going to get out of overwhelm. I'm going to take that next further. I'm going to get out of procrastination. I'm going to take some action steps and really get a good crystal clear view of what's going on, who's what, who's where, what do I want, where am I going, am I on track? Because especially when you're saying you're working remotely and also you're a solopreneur, so you don't necessarily have everyone else to bounce stuff off of all the time. And now that most people are working from home, I'm guessing that they're feeling some of that too. We used to be able to at least have conversations, kind of bat this around, bat that around. Our Zoom meetings and different things like that are a very different scenario, which a topic for a different day is Zoom fatigue, which is a thing. So really looking at when you don't have anyone to bounce it off of, when you start feeling that overwhelm and the tunnel starts getting kind of dark and we're only looking at that narrow vision point, this is a great way of pulling yourself out, getting very clear, getting that eagle eye view on the problem. Also the solution, who to keep, who to grow, and who to cut loose.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You're going to start to see that too. So if you align, so say your desire analysis is your company culture desire analysis. And you can align, instead of clients, you're aligning your employees with that desire. And you're looking at their performance and how they show up and how they show up in alignment with the company culture. You can spot the ones that need the coaching. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So once you get that clarity through quantifying the metrics around things, it takes something that's very qualitative, very, yes, based in your truth, but hard to get your hands and your mind around. And it makes it very concrete. And once you have that very concrete metric in front of you, it's easier to look at it from a more logical standpoint to make some choices, make some decisions.
Well, what I'm also hearing with this process is it's emotional, but it's actually a little bit more geared toward the rational. So part of it's like imagining without limitation. That's very much an emotional process, but then also kind of like bringing it back to my life, my way. What do I want? What am I manifesting? What am I working toward? What's happening here? How am I experiencing this people, place, and thing? Which is a very tangible experience. So we're not just looking at the emotional side, which is temporary and fleeting. We're really looking at the big picture here, which provides a lot more solidarity, a lot more solid ground, something to actually step on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can tell you just from a emotional and a mindset standpoint, when I completed this chart, I felt like I knew what to do next. I felt like I knew the questions that I needed to ask, specifically in relation to opportunities that hadn't come through yet, opportunities that were brand new. So I sent an email to a consulting firm who had, said some very scary things to me, like, we want to make you a partner. We'd like you to be in on us 100%. Those are very scary statements that are out of alignment. So I sent them a list of questions in alignment with my desire analysis. And they're then going to be prepared to talk about that next week when we meet for a half day. And I actually have the opportunity to evaluate the potential in front of me. But when you look at potential just as it is through the raw emotion of, oh my gosh, someone wants me to be a partner, I can take a percentage of top line revenue. But what does that really look like, right?
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
Is the hour commitment? What
and getting past kind of the flattery of it, which that is definitely a trap for solopreneurs, business owners, people that are looking to expand, which is we have to take a more global view of opportunity. And it's really difficult oftentimes for people to say no to new business or to say no to opportunity because they're not necessarily taking that global view, like you said.
Right, exactly. And I even use this analysis to look at the alignment in my living situation. Why do I have a roommate? What does the roommate serve in the desire analysis? How aligned is the roommate? What does this potential, what does this have the potential to maybe shift into if I were to make it better? How could I make it better? So it acts also as an active improvement tool so that it's very, very clear what needs to be improved as well. So it's just very, very super helpful analysis overall.
I agree. So, one of the things I'd like to end with for the show today is encouraging our listeners to possibly write these down and put them somewhere you would see them, on your fridge, on your pin board, on your whiteboard, kind of over there by your calendar somewhere. These are great things to just kind of run by yourself whenever you are making a decision. Is this in alignment with my vision? Is this, what can solutions, who do I need to team up with? Does this meet my needs? All of those lovely things. And I think they can even shorten them to really kind of get to this streamlined process of yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no. Majority was yes, so it's probably something to consider. Majority was no, so I'm probably going to ditch it. But this is a really quick and easy tool to run a lot of different options, ideas in any area of your life to get some clarity quick.
Exactly. And isn't clarity just a beautiful, beautiful feeling?
I always say clarity is king. So
it is.
Clarity and consistency, those two things, and you're golden.
Exactly. This has been Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm Diane Hansen, management consultant.
And I'm Christine Salvo, licensed marriage and family therapist, certified mediator, and certified hypnotherapist. Thanks so much for listening. Have a lovely day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. This is Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm Diane Hansen, management consultant, and with me co-host Christine Salvo, therapist, certified mediator, and certified hypnotherapist.
Good morning.